Okay, welcome everyone to your second IST Top Tip Telecon. As you probably know, this one is all about health and happiness today, or tonight should I say, and it's basically some advice, some tips from some of your CST and CMT, basically to help you on your way to the Jamboree and while you're out there. So tonight, this is the plan. This is what we're going to cover. All about looking after yourself, all about looking after others, all about the support you'll kind of receive on site. So we've got a bit about the listening ear and things. And then we've dripped in some of these flash updates. Now, hopefully you'll know what these are by now. We wrote a bit about them in the IST times that you just received. They're basically little flashes of information that are coming from the USA and the other host nations that are giving us little bits of advice. They're really helpful. More information on there that you might not have heard before, so definitely worth a look. So, thank you to those that have submitted already the questions through our online portal. Remember, you can do these for the other webinars in the future as well, so please feel free to do that. We're aiming to cover all these in the presentation, but do remember that you can ask a question live. On your little panel that you'll see on your screen, there's a question bar, so feel free to type a question in there and we'll try and get back to them at the end if we don't manage to answer them as we go.
Christine, I think the slides are just paused. If you want to just press play on them.
Oh, sorted.
Brilliant.
Apologies. You've not missed anything exciting on the slides, just pretty much a script. So if you have got any friends in IST or anyone that you know that can't make the webinar tonight, good news, you'll be able to see it online. And if you're really worried about missing those slides, they'll be there too. Those will be in the what have I missed section. And also with the questions that might get asked tonight, we're going to generate some FAQs so that obviously people can see this information that might be a really useful question that someone has asked. Okay, but first, I'm Christina. I'm part of the CST. I sit on the IST team as well as the unit support team, so I'm very lucky, very privileged. And we've got Chloe with us. You'll hear from her a little bit later on. She deals with the IST and is heading up the project about the listening ear, so she's the right person to speak to if you've got any worries. She's got loads of experience that work in her work life as well as volunteer life, so very helpful person to have on the call. We've got Kath with us as well, who is a CMT member. She leads up the personal development zone, so she is all about trying to get us all fit and ready for the Jamboree, trying to get as much as we can out of the experience as well. We've got Liz. Liz has got loads of experience as CST for moots and jamborees in the past, so she's going to give us a lot of the information tonight and a lot of the advice about from her experiences and also her experiences of helping other people. And then we've got Jonathan, who's our comms guy from the IST team. You probably heard from him on the last one, and he's going to sort and dish out the questions at the end, so you'll hear from him right last, or you did hear from him 5 minutes ago when he told me my technology is not quite up to date yet. So let's get started. I'm handing over to Liz. Off you go.
Thanks, Christina, and hi, everyone. I thought I'd start at the beginning. It's a very good place to start, allegedly. But there is really nothing like starting as you mean to go on. And I know some of you probably already begun to think about your health, your well-being. But if you're like me, even with the best intentions, you've probably let it slip a little bit. We know it's going to be rough terrain and possibly challenging weather. So my first tip really is to make sure you get fit, you get well, and you get planning. I think it's much better if you can think about your own strategies for managing your health and well-being at the Jamboree if you start right now. And as I say, some of you may have already started. But make sure that you're looking after yourself and potentially your buddies on the IST too. You know, when we're at the Jamboree, well-being can be something as simple as having a way to relax if you're stressed, having a comfort from home, or anything else that you might need to sort of manage the time that you're away from home. I know for some, and I think Chloe, you're one of them, a nice snuggly pillow is something that you take with you, so that you've got something that not just reminds you of home, but actually makes you feel good. Some it's mindful colouring, and for me that picture in the middle is I travel extensively, and quite honestly, there is always a jar of Marmite in my luggage. If I feel unwell, a little bit on a cracker, or if I want just a bit of comfort, I find it really great. But love it or hate it, there'll be something that works for you. Another great tip is perhaps to download books to Kindle, a phone or a tablet, or perhaps your favourite shows, from BBC iPlayer, Netflix, whatever. And they're particularly great for sort of flight delays or jet lag. But whatever you do, please don't forget your earphones. We're all about making sure that you manage your own well-being as well as everybody else's. Don't forget that this is a great opportunity to link this to your personal development, whether it's getting fitter, dealing with stress better, or just making sure that you're rested before we leave. You can really start now and use the opportunity, I have to say, as I've done, to link it to my personal development and how I can learn from what I've done before. Okay, so if we move on, what about once we're at the Jamboree? Well, it's really sort of a question of starting about the basics, I would say. Get rest where and when you can. It might not be in your tent if it's the heat of the day, or if your allocated duty is a long way from base, but I would say take the opportunity to rest or snooze or watch one of those shows or read a book or do something in your downtime. It's going to be incredibly busy, and one of the things we've got to make sure that we all do is not burn ourselves out in the first few days when we're incredibly excited about being on site. It's all about resilience and lasting for the duration. The other thing, of course, is make sure you're hydrated. Drink. If you're thirsty, quite often that means that you're already dehydrated. And often, when we think we're thirsty, when we think we're hungry, we're often thirsty. So do make sure you keep those water bottles filled up and keep drinking them. It's no good filling them up in the morning, getting back to your site, realizing they're still full and you feel pretty lousy. Just getting rest and drinking will keep you well. And of course, you need to eat. Mostly you need fuel just to keep yourself going. You'll need energy to be alert, to do your job, and of course to keep happy. Don't underestimate also the comfort of food either. Make sure you take advantage of the IST dining offers for breakfast, lunch and dinner. There's plenty of choice, and of course any dietary needs are catered, but make sure that your details are up to date if you do have allergies or dietary requirements. But of course, as I said above, I take Marmite with me, but if there's something you crave or can't do without, then think about taking something with you. Probably better if it's after strong mince than maybe your favourite fish, but just give it some thought as to how you can manage those things, take energy bars or whatever it is that works for you. It's really important to make sure that you get food for fuel. And finally, I'd say take a buddy. Now, you only can find those, you can either find them sort of before you go, or of course, there's a great opportunity to meet people and find someone on your team or your subcamp with similar interests. Maybe take advantage of the Facebook groups we've already got, getting to know people in the post-event groups, that are going to be with you for the duration. Whatever it might be, really do take the opportunity to find a buddy or two. As they say, a problem shared is a problem halved, and you'll be there to support each other, not just yourself. And I guess whatever you do, just don't bottle things up. Make sure you deal with things before they're a problem. And again, that could be another opportunity for your personal development if it's not something that you're good at the moment. Moving on to what about when we're there, and of course, a lot of the stuff about looking after yourself on site is really thinking about some of the things that what it's going to be like. And I thought I'd pick a few things that people have either contacted me about already or I've experienced, as Christina said, when I've been at Jamborees and moots. The first one is a toilet. Make sure you go, and if you can't, do something about it before you're uncomfortable or poorly. And I'm sure you've heard that the doors of the loos on site in the in Summit have shower curtains. So think about how that is for you. Personally, it gives me a little bit of anxiety, but I'm prepared for it. And one of the things I'm thinking about is making a laminated sign to put on the curtain to show that it's in use. Quite possibly, it's really not necessary to use it, but it's one of the strategies that I'm using to sort of manage my anxiety about how that might be. I'm quite a private person in that regard. About showers, please make sure you do them. It's not just about looking after yourself, but think about the others in your general area, and particularly those in your tent. Showering makes things much more pleasant for you and for everyone else. One of the things we thought about is that it might be a good idea to have a basic shower kit in your day sack, so that you can grab a shower when it's free, either when you've got a bit of downtime or between your roles and shifts and what have you. Do think about the showers are solar powered, so if you don't like a cold shower, just check when they're going to be much more warm or much warmer. And again, a warm shower can be something to make yourself clean and really can affect your well-being and make yourself feel better. The weather, it's cold at night and hot during the day, so again, be prepared. Something that I heard somewhere, and a good motto for someone. Think about layers for the daytime and the night. Make sure you've got the appropriate clothes for bad weather. Make sure you've got the appropriate clothes for hot weather, and just be prepared. Some people really dislike being cold. Well, if that's you, then think about what you can do to make sure you've got enough layers to take with you. Make sure you've got a hat, maybe a woolly hat, but also something that's going to keep the sun off. And also perhaps think about, well, not even perhaps, but do think about sunscreen, and make sure that you look after yourself on site so you're not sunburned and again feeling pretty rubbish when you go to your next duty. Just a word of warning, the downpours are truly torrential, so take weather warnings seriously. The site is very good at it, don't be alarmed by it, but you are literally, as I put on the slide there, likely to experience all sorts of weather. So be prepared. And then I put a picture of a mobile phone. I would suggest that you need to take one for many different reasons. The Jamboree organisers are using apps to get people around site, share information probably about your shifts, maps, that sort of thing. Do be aware that roaming in the US is very expensive. So another thing about looking after yourself on site, make sure you know how to use the Wi-Fi. Make sure you know how to switch off roaming so you don't stress yourself about the costs of your mobile phone, but also think about how you're going to charge it. My experience, it's actually better to use a portable charger and make sure you use that to charge your phone. It's a lot cheaper if it gets stolen or you lose it. And another top tip is to make sure your phone's insured. But having a phone is really a really good way to make sure that you manage your own sort of well-being, just so that you're in contact, you know what you're supposed to be doing, and even if you're sort of walking on a trail, you're not alone. As it says on the slide there, no stilettos, really sorry, not recommended, but ankle support is. The terrain is rough and tough, and I know you talked about this on your previous call, but again, looking after your feet when you're walking all day, or you've got long walks between, back to the showers, maybe you've got a long walk just to breakfast. It's really important that you're comfortable. So recommended no open toe shoes, although do take some flip-flops. Great for when you need a shower, much nicer, and also when you need a breather after all that walking. But that refers me back to the shower picture, and make sure you keep them clean. All of this sort of information is in the IST Times around footwear, but it is really important. There's nothing worse, and you can feel pretty miserable if you've got blisters, sore feet, and all the rest of it. It can really make a difference to how you actually feel. And then time. You'll need a mechanism to tell the time. Now, I know a number of you use your phone, but also take a cheap watch. There's plenty on eBay. One of the things I love is, one of these sort of rubberized nurse's watch type things. They're about £5. and they're really good to just hook on your belt so that you know you're going to be in time for shifts, for meals, how long it's going to take to get somewhere. And again, it's something else that will help you manage, you know, any anxieties and what have you. And don't underestimate the time it will take you just to walk to breakfast. And as I said before, food is fuel, and you will need it. So it's another thing to keep you healthy and to keep you happy. So what about other people? When we get to looking for others, or maybe it's just you, you know, other tips, and it might be those at home. You know, Chloe's going to talk more about what help is available for on site in terms of sickness and what have you, but do make sure that you are prepared if you get sick, particularly if you've got a trigger such as an allergy, or you know, lack of sleep gives you a problem. Just make sure that you are prepared, and don't stress though, there is lots of help available. Think about times you might be lonely. It happens, even to the most extrovert of us, I can tell you, but make sure, more importantly, that you're looking around for others, showing signs. They might showing signs of loneliness, homesickness. They might just be fed up. If you can choose to be anything, be kind. Be prepared to meet people from other cultures. You know, we talked about buddies earlier. There are folks from all corners of the globe at the Jamboree, and you need to be prepared for that. It's a brilliant, brilliant thing, but it also can be quite stressful. Do you talk the language? Are you able to communicate? What are the expectations of other cultures that they may have on us, or we may have of them? It's a huge learning opportunity, but also something we just need to sort of bear in mind. You know, think about the challenges of differences, but also the incredible similarities. I would say reach out and learn. It's another fantastic opportunity for personal development, but make sure that you look after people. They may well be feeling very alone in the fact that, you know, folks from, I don't know, the Middle East, Africa, South America, you know, we feel that the US is very similar to what we're used to, but others may feel completely discombobulated. And by the way, that's one of my favorite words. So that's, you know, something to sort of bear in mind. And then finally, I wanted to talk about family and friends. Plan how you, or if actually you want to be contacted, or how you might want to contact loved ones back at home. They may need to contact you. Wi-Fi is good. WhatsApp, social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever may be a better way of doing it. Think about time zones. We'll be 5 hours behind the UK, so you might want to think twice about calling your mum at the end of your evening shift. She might not appreciate having a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Certainly can tell you from experience, mine doesn't. But if loved ones are going to get anxious if you forget to think to sort of ring them, make a plan now as to how you're going to look after those folks. You know, those of you that have got kids, perhaps, you know, make a little video they can play, or whatever it might be. I'm sure you've all got some really fantastic ideas. Think about a daily blog, just to make sure that if you've promised to make, you know, a call at, I don't know, 5 p.m. every day and you don't make it, what's that going to do at the folks at home? So look after them as well. So all I've talked about really has been around sort of before and after, or sort of before and during the Jamboree, I guess. So we're going to talk about now what help is available on site, and I'm going to hand over to Chloe, and Chloe's going to talk to us about the help available for your mind, your body and your spirit. Chloe, over to you.
Thank you very much, Liz. Good evening, everyone. So Christina mentioned earlier, I'm Chloe, and part of my role on CST is to head up the listening ear. So if you've been to a Jamboree before, you might be aware of what listening ear is, or if you haven't, I will now explain. So listening ear is somewhere that you can go whilst on Jamboree if you need to have a chat with someone. It could be that, you know, things are getting too much, you've got kind of a problem that you need some help with on site and you're not sure where to go. Listening ear could be your place. So what they've got on this Jamboree is you will be having a UK contingent listening ear, where there'll be members of IST and UK staff that will be heading that up. But the Americans, the Canadians and the Mexicans have also got listening ear hubs that are going to be based all around the site. So if you've looked at the map, the site is quite big, and there was concerns that actually, you want to be able to get to speak to someone relatively quickly if you need to do that. So if you're working on subcamps, there are going to be listening ear hubs on that subcamp. So kind of no matter where you are, you will be able to go and find someone. They've also have organised that there's going to be some rover teams that will just be walking around the sites, kind of where the activities are, or in the pavilions by the food houses, that actually if you're just walking to your job and you think, oh, I need to talk to someone, there's going to be someone there for you. There's also arrangements have been made on site where if you want to speak to a religious leader, whether it's kind of a rabbi or an imam or kind of a church minister, there's going to be people available for you to have those chats as well. So there really is kind of lots of support on site for you with regards to the listening ear. But what we want to say is, kind of prepare yourself as much as you can. So, as Liz has already mentioned, look after yourself beforehand whilst on site. Try and manage your situation, and then obviously if you still need support, then we are there. We're more than happy for you to come and have a chat with us. So keep posted about seeing all the listening ear sites. If it's something that you're interested in doing whilst on site as your IST job, then get in contact, and we will be happy to kind of delegate you out to a team. So what we'd like to put on as well is kind of some top tips that I lie, missed a slide. We've got first aid. So not only obviously is kind of your mental health important on site, your physical health is just as important. So we would kind of recommend that in your day sack you put your own personal first aid kit, things like plasters, antiseptic wipes, the normal. Put one of those in your bag that actually if you need some immediate minor first aid, then you can do that yourself. There will be first aid teams wandering around, and there is on site a hospital in which you can go to. Linking into first aid that isn't on here, a great opportunity if you're looking at your personal development is why don't you go and do some mental health first aid training. That is I don't know if anyone else has done the training, we've done it with our Explorer Scouts, and it gives such helpful tips and tools on kind of how to manage yourself and how to manage other people's if they're in a time of need mentally as well. So if you need any details on that, then I'm sure people can signpost you to where you can do some mental health first aid training. So on to some of our top tips. Top one on you can see there is that if you've got any anxieties or worries about the Jamboree, talk to someone before you go. It might be an anxiety or worry that can be easily solved before you go, and actually just having spoken to someone about it will ease that. There's a saying, making the mountain out of a molehill. Jamborees are not the best places for you to make mountains, so try and do what you can to ease those anxieties before you go. Liz mentioned it earlier, make sure that you get some sleep on site. Rest and downtime is just as important. I know how exciting Jamborees are. You want to go and explore, you want to go and meet different people, go and visit old friends, new friends, go to the food houses. That's great, do all of that, but make sure that you do get your rest, because ultimately you need to be doing your job and you want to be keeping yourself well. And yeah, linking back into where Liz said about your buddy, talk to the people around you. You're on scout camp, everyone likes to have a nice little chat. Just, it could be that you go into someone and asking them, oh, how's your day been? Have you seen this bit of the site? That is just going to make possibly yourself and them feel so much better for having that conversation. But ultimately, before Jamboree and on site, and importantly as well after, you need to look after yourself, because if you don't look after yourself, then you can't look after others. And as IST, ultimately we are there to be giving the young people the best Jamboree that they could possibly have. And I have just mentioned there about looking after yourself after Jamboree. There is a saying about Jamboree blues, which is kind of when you come back home from Jamboree and you've had a massive hype and you've really enjoyed yourself, and then you go to bed the first night and you're surrounded by walls and not a tent, and it's a bizarre feeling. And actually that is totally normal to feel. So make sure that you've got kind of meetups arranged with your IST or units or other people that have been to Jamboree following your return, so you can kind of chat about Jamboree and get that buzz back. But it is going to be completely normal if when you come back from Jamboree you're going to miss it. But ultimately, obviously, if in doubt, keep calm and think positive. Jamborees are such a great experience. You know, it's going to have its ups and downs, but mainly its ups. So have that positive frame of mind walking around that site, have a smile on your face, and everything will go well.
Brilliant there. Thanks, Chloe, and thanks for everyone else on the call doing the talking tonight. So that brings to the end the main part of our presentation. We've had a few questions sent in advance. We've had some sent on the call. If you have still got questions, things that have been raised in the call, if you do just want to type them into the question box available, then we'll try and answer them now for you. We've got a first question here from Josh asking about tent buddies and tent sharing on the Jamboree site. As it stands at the moment, we've got no further information on how the sharing or tent allocation will be made. The Jamboree organisers are obviously doing a lot of planning at the moment and are starting to ramp up the amount of information they're sending out to both the UK contingent and to IST directly. We expect, obviously, that this is something that potentially will be released in advance of the Jamboree. That's the way it's happened in the past, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will happen that way in the future. But if not, it's something to look forward to when we get onto the site. But if and when we get some more information on buddying up and tent sharing, we'll pass that on to IST as and when it comes up. We've also got a question here. Chloe, maybe you can answer it. When we're on the site, how will we be able to identify the CST on site? And do we know where best to find them if we've got any issues?
Okay, so if you have attended the IST weekend, although I wasn't there, as you may see me on the big screen, all CMST members have a lovely bright red polo shirt with our name and the bear on. That will be kind of your way to spot us if we're walking around site. You'll probably see us from a distance in our bright red t-shirts. So come and have a chat with any one of the CMST members that are walking around site. There'll also be a hub where the UK contingent will sit, and there'll be kind of members of staff that are on duty. When we know where that is on site, you will be able to come and find someone there that will be manned at all times. And there will also be emergency phone numbers should it be a big emergency that if you need to contact the UK contingent.
Thanks, Chloe. I think it's worth also saying that as part of your role, you'll have a line manager on the Jamboree, and they're always a great first point of call for any issues, particularly if you've got problems with your job and that sort of thing. They'll often be able to answer them far quicker and far better than the UK contingent will be able to. So on to another question. We've got an IST members asking about, they don't know particularly many people now because there's not many people in their local area that's there that they know in advance of the Jamboree. And is there any tips for getting to know people in advance of the Jamboree? Don't know if this is something, Liz, that you can maybe pick up for us. Looks like Liz is.
It's all right, I've managed to unmute myself, sorry. I was going to say, yes, I've got loads of tips and I gave you all there. The best thing I think to do is to use the IST Facebook group. Introduce yourself, let people know, you know, who you are and that you don't know many people, and make it an opportunity. I would say make it a bit of your personal development that hopefully you can attend the all adults weekend and that you'll make a point of meeting up with, let's say, 5 people that you didn't know before you went, so that you know that those 5 people, if you meet them on the plane, you meet them at the airport, you meet them on site, you've already got 5 people that you know. Certainly that was my top tip, and it worked really well when we went to the Moot the year before last, because there were, you know, it was a much smaller contingent, so very few people knew each other, Think also about the Facebook groups that you've got for your post event, if you're going on the post event, and make sure that you do as much as you can online, but really take the opportunity as well, as I say, for All Adults Weekend. And if not, then the one thing I would just stress, even if you are the shyest person ever, just try and meet one person every day. That's my tip. It's the most rewarding thing when you're at a Jamboree. Don't push yourself, but just meet one person every day, and there's someone to just share a coffee or a Coke with, you know, in the canteen, something like that. Hopefully that helps, Jonathan.
Brilliant, thanks, Liz. Got a number of questions coming in from people on more personal needs, on sort of medical needs. I suggest we don't pick them up on this call. What I would say though is that UK contingent in October asked everyone to provide a load of information on different personal medical needs through events there. If you haven't already done that, or there has been changes in circumstances to that information that you provided, if you can ensure that that information is on events there, what we'll be doing is, and what we'll continue doing is reviewing the information that you put on events there about different personal needs that you may have, and looking at how we can best support those. That might be facilities for storing different things, that might be additional help that you need, or different limitations you have. If you make sure they're on events there, and we will be reviewing them, and where appropriate, be getting into contact with you close to the time, or now about those different needs. So we'll pick those up separately with those people. Kath, we've got a question in about whether you've had any challenges previously communicating with other team members, whether they're kind of from a different country, different cultures, and if you've got any kind of top tips for dealing with that sort of situation.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, I think probably the strangest challenge I've had to cope with at a Jamboree was in Mongolia a couple of years ago, where practically nobody spoke English, which made it very interesting. I prefer English because I'm not very good at any other languages. I'm fluent in Yorkshire mainly. But one of the things that I found was that the cultural differences that we have about wanting to take part and wanting to help are sometimes not quite the same. When we were away in Mongolia, they wanted to do everything, and they didn't want to inconvenience us by asking us to do anything. So it's quite a strange thing. They just wanted us to be there, which was nice, but you felt a little bit at a loss. So what I would say is, you know, once you found out your job of work, once you get there, just to make yourself known, show how willing you are, be prepared to stand back and sometimes you might have to wait for somebody to direct you, but you know, you don't feel like you have to rush and take over everything. Everybody's there as part of a team, and just, you know, show how willing you are, but don't try to be overbearing and try and do everything, because everybody will have a part to play, and it'll be every day. So there'll never be people sitting around thinking, what should I do, and twiddling your thumbs.
Brilliant, thank you. Andrew's posted a message, and he raises a really good point actually, about people working different shift patterns on the Jamboree, and how that might affect your sleeping, particularly if you're sharing with people that may be on different shifts, how that can work with socialising around the IST subcamps. Claire, I didn't know if you had any thoughts or maybe any tips about how to one, make sure you avoid that sort of disturbance, and things that IST can do to make sure others aren't disturbed when coping with the different shift patterns.
Yeah, so ultimately, you know, it is having that awareness of what other shifts people are doing. You know, some people will be doing night shifts, so actually they will need to be sleeping during the day, or they are going to overlap just due to the nature of all the jobs. So what is really great about Jamborees is actually there's loads of different places that you can go to with your friends to go and have a catch up. There's all the places like the food houses, there's pavilions, there'll be entertainment that the sub camps are putting on, so you can go there. So it's almost, you know, you want to make sure that where you sleep and your tent, that is what you are there for. You go to your tent to sleep, to pick up items. It's not necessarily a socializing point. So, you know, make plans with people prior to you finishing your shift. You know, let's meet at the, you know, the restaurant for dinner, or let's go to the UK food house that evening, or the Canadian one, which I think I've just seen the badge, and it's the Sugar Shack, which looks amazing. So, you know, make those plans with other people to socialize outside of your tent. And just remember how you would feel if you were the person in the tent trying to sleep when you were having a chat. Just kind of use some of that empathy that we like to have as scouts.
Brilliant, thanks, Chloe. And Janet's had something about food here, so different menus and different how to cope with different dietary requirements. The Jamboree organisers have actually started releasing some information about how the food and canteen and catering for IST works. I think this has been captured in a recent flash update, which is available on the Jamboree organisers website. We can look at posting more detailed information about that after the call. In general, our experience from visiting the site, the members that the contingent management team that have visited, is that the food, the catering facilities are going to be very good. It's generally going to be done via kind of buffet style with different queues and lines to choose from. And our understanding and the way it works is that you will enter through one queue into the food houses, into the food IST catering. And at that point, you'll see the menus up and be able to choose which line you want to go for. And we know that they will be providing different food options for those with dietary needs, but we'll post a bit more information on that as and when we get it on the website for you as an FAQ. Maybe one for you, Liz, about how to ensure your kit remains safe when in your tent when working. Have you got any tips about kind of safety and security when on the Jamboree site?
I'm trying to unmute myself. Yes, couple of things. One is do think about the stuff you're taking. I know I mentioned sort of a Kindle or a phone and that sort of thing. Those are the sorts of things that I'd probably suggest you have in your day pack and you have that with you. So minimising the things you leave about. And again, it's tidying up. I mean, Jamborees are generally safe places, but don't forget there are, you know, thousands of people on site, and if you leave stuff lying about, others may think that you've left it and it's not needed or wanted. So, you know, part of it is just taking care of our stuff. The other thing is I would suggest a lock on your bag. While you're traveling, actually, one of the locks that you'll see if you buy it, especially from, you know, whether you buy it from W.H. Smith's or any of the, you know, the airport or whatever, you'll see that it's called TSA approved. And what that means is you can lock your bag, but you can also, it means if you go through US airports and what have you, the security and customs staff can open it. They have a special key. So I would recommend always making sure that for your main bag, you do have a lock on it. You do minimize the things that you're taking with you, and anything that is, you know, super valuable or something, particularly, you know, medication that you might need and not have others. Just think about keeping it about your person, if nothing else, because you might need it when you're quite a long way away. So it's not a case of looking after your possessions, but when you need something, it might not be in front of you. So hopefully that works.
And thanks, Liz. And that's actually a great plug for something the UK contingent kit is going to include, which is one of those approved locks. So as part of the UK contingent kit bag that everyone will be receiving, that will be coming with a provided lock of that particular specification that you mentioned. So thanks for prompting me on that one.
Oh, there you go. If by magic.
So that seems to be the majority of the questions, unless anyone's got anything. So I think what we'll do is we'll wrap it up there for this evening. I think it's been some really good discussion there. So thank you for all the presenters on there. If we can just go on to the next slide then, Christina, to wrap up then. So the next webinar will be on travel on the 18th of April, where we'll be going through more information on everyone's different travel information and the different options that you have all chosen, and the team will be on call to answer some of the questions that you may have on different travel. But if you do have any questions in the meantime that we haven't picked up on the call, please don't hesitate to contact us at ist@ukcontingent.co.uk. The video, as Christina alluded to at the start of the call, will be available on the IST zone under What Have I Missed in the weeks following this call. And also remember to keep on sharing ideas, questions on the IST Facebook page, where you might find other IST are available to answer some of the questions that you may have as well. So with that, I think we'll wrap up there. Thank you very much for joining. Hope you got a lot out of it, and we'll join you for the travel session on the 18th of April. Please remember to sign up for it. Thank you.